Hello, I'm Joyce.
I'm June.
And I'm Paula.
We're the Kavanagh sisters, and we'd like to welcome you to our series of County and podcasts where we continue to shine a light on childhood sexual abuse and its impacts. In today's podcast, we will be looking at the psychological impacts of childhood sexual abuse and discussing how they manifested for each of us in our lives.
As a child, were you aware that you were a victim of something?
Well, I suppose I would have felt there was nobody to help me. You know, I used to pray to God to save me or somebody to save me. And then growing up dreaming that, you know, a knight in shining armour would come and save me. So yeah, in that sense, I would have felt powerless, and that would have equaled victim, you know. I would have felt there was nothing and nobody that could help me.
Victim of something was a victim of a crime. If I was to think of somebody as a victim of something, I would have thought of somebody being robbed or beaten up. I wouldn't have equated our situation to being a victim of something.
I don't think I would have ever considered myself a victim, because when you look at the culture and the era we grew up in, it was the norm that adults had all the power.
All I know that I felt as a child is I felt powerless, and I did feel that everybody picked on me. I continuously felt sorry for myself, and that was frowned upon.
Like, it'd be a bit like vanity, like that was like a mortal sin.
Yeah.
I remember brushing my hair in the mirror and Mammy was saying like something about you're so vain. I didn't know what vain was.
I remember trying to perfect my signature because I'm left-handed, I never liked my writing. And I remember experimenting, trying to do nice squiggles, you know, for my name. And Mammy looking over my shoulder and going, that's vain. And I just remember thinking, it was like deep shame.
Yeah.
Over just trying to write your name nicely.
Well, you see, I think vanity was sin, a mortal sin. It would have been looked on as a sin.
But like in terms of victims, yeah, Polly, you're probably right that there was no visible signs of a crime, you know. And it's only a label because we had all of the hallmarks and we had all the feelings, but we hadn't got the language at the time or the understanding.
So I would have never went to somebody outside as a child and told him I was a victim of something.
No, well, I told a doctor once, and the words I used was, Daddy's doing things to me. And June would have been similar in
I told a
profession.
priest, yeah. You're right, when we were doing the writing, and even in therapy, it took a long time to say, he raped me, instead of he had sex with me.
No, because when you say that, he had sex with me,
you're still part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas he raped me is actually, I think it's the proper terminology.
That's the language he gave us.
Yeah.
Because we were trained, groomed, conditioned, brainwashed so young, we took that on. And turning that around was a monumental task. You know, people used to say, oh my God, he was so evil. And I couldn't comprehend how anybody could call anybody that I lived with evil, because I thought, like, evil, that's a big word. Like, that's the name you'd put on some kind of a monster. And I couldn't comprehend that we lived with a monster.
I wouldn't have seen him as a monster, but I absolutely thought he was a horrible, horrible, horrible person.
I hated him with me heart and soul, but I clung desperately onto the hope, I suppose, that he wasn't all bad, that there was good in there. I had to convince myself that there was good in him, that he didn't realise what he was doing, or
that he was sick. Or
yes, or there had to be a reason for it, because I couldn't live if I'd thought that there was no hope.
And it is about it. As a child, you don't really understand what's going on, so you don't see yourself as being a victim of anything. Like, really, you don't. You just know you don't like it and you want it to stop. And I think the only time I would have even heard somebody say about being a victim was the first time I entered therapy. And they said, you were a victim here, you're innocent.
I think growing up, I would have always felt hopeless, that, you know, nothing's ever going to change here. This is it. Now, I didn't wallow in that, but I know in my adult life I would have had the same feeling if I was in a relationship and I wasn't happy. I would have convinced myself there's something wrong with me. I didn't even give credence to the fact that this relationship's not working. Doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with any one of you. And then, I stayed in relationships longer than I should have because I believed this is as good as it gets. It was like a repeat feeling from childhood feelings just carried into my adult life. The fear, powerlessness, and hopelessness, they were my three strongest emotions, and I wouldn't have even recognise them as emotions well into my adult life.
Powerlessness was the one that would stand out. If I think of myself as a child and also then as a teenager, that sense of having no control over anything, that was huge.
And I don't think I'd even have been conscious of that. I definitely would have been more hopeless type. That nothing can change. It doesn't matter where you go. Things are going to be the same.
Oh, well, you see, I always blame myself for not having any balls and any courage to just get up and run away. That was a huge feeling for me, as I really wanted to get up and just walk out of that house and never go back. But I never had the courage. And that was a big thing to try and live with.
I remember Paula, you saying, that you'd be in long-term relationships and you'd be always thinking, like, if they would just sort them fucking selves out, I'd be fine. And I remember even hearing it, and I could understand it and everything, but I was the same way. I landed in therapy several times with my husband, and I remember going in the door thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't think this is salvageable. I remember sitting in front of the therapist and saying, unless you can do something with him, we have no hope. Because I'm done. I'm not giving another thing. It's all on him. And when I actually got the opportunity to hear his perspective, I realised that we're exactly the same. We all want the same things. We might be coming at it from a different experience or, in a different way. And that does tend to happen with men and women. And not to say that, life is a bowl of cherries when you figure this out. You still have to navigate it. But I think, I put so much into everything that I do. I feel the input that we give to everything is like we give 150% and you never seem to get it back. And I spent years and years now, a good 20 years, giving out in my head about my husband. And then I realised one day, hang on a minute, I wouldn't even let him do the stuff I'm doing because I wanted that for me. I wanted that control for me. I wanted the house to be my domain.
I know, but you see, you wouldn't realise that.
No.
You wouldn't realise it because, like, human nature is when you're in a relationship, your job is to fix that person. And that goes for men as well as women.
Yeah.
I believed if he cared enough,
he would know.
Because I knew what he liked. How come he couldn't bother his fucking arse to find out what I like?
I would have felt I was a victim in so many relationships, not just in a partner relationship. It's the lack of awareness, because I remember going in to the Rape Crisis Centre and them saying, you're innocent here, you're a victim, you did nothing wrong, you're completely blameless. And it's how I interpreted that. The way that went into my mind was everybody around me was wrong and doing me wrong, and I was never wrong, and I was completely innocent. There was no one who could possibly win when it came to me, because if they only asked me a question and they asked me the wrong way, that I took it as a judgment, and then sitting in judgment of myself meant I sat in judgment of everybody else.
I know, but that all went on internally, so
Yeah.
there was hell going on the inside. Not
Now,
anymore.
when you think about it, like, you grew up knowing, one, it's not the right thing to do and it's not safe to express how you feel. We never unlearned that. So we carry that into our adult lives.
It was all the messages that we got about how women are supposed to be in the world and men. And we took all of that literally because it was the way we were reared and it was instilled in us. And we had belief systems that we naturally had to live by until we understood differently.
In all of that, never dawned on any one of us that this has anything to do with our childhood. It's like when the abuse stopped, when he has stopped abusing us, we started.
You think that abuse is something in there in your past that should be
In your past.
healed, but the realization that it is actually, it's you in your entirety. It's not a little part of you that happened when you were younger that you need to go back and fix and heal. It's not. It's now. It's you. We, in our thinking, we thought, yeah, there is something wrong back there, but we didn't realize that it now represented us
I would have said though, as an adult, I never saw, well, consciously, I never saw myself as a victim. But I know I felt people should help me. They should see what I'm going through, and they should help me. And there's something wrong if they're not helping me.
Because that is victim mentality.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I would totally relate to that. I didn't feel like a victim, but yeah, I would have had that. Why is nobody saving me? Can nobody see?
I would have thought my outward behaviour was screaming to somebody, to everybody, going, can you not see the pain I'm in? And yeah, I never said a word to anybody. I never asked anybody for help. I never went to somebody and said, I'm really having a bad day today.
But when you think of it and listen to the words that we're using and everything, we were so inwardly focused, and not in a good way.
It was like when we started counselling, the first things they say that, this is something that happened to you. You are innocent. But I was thinking, yeah, I know, because that's the way I've seen it. To me, it was just words. To me, I actually believed when I heard all the things they said that, this affects your self-confidence and all. I got this immediate vision that I was going to go in there, they were going to fix me and send me off, and I'd be a whole new person. I never realised till I was in therapy for a year that I had anything to do with it. I didn't realise I had to play a part in being fixed. When they spoke a lot about, you're a victim of this and a victim of that, like Paul, I would have never connected the word victim with what I experienced. I remember thinking, like, if I stop being a victim, I have to be responsible. And that word weighed a ton. It was really ironic because I was so responsible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But the word and the notion that I had to be totally responsible for something, that was actually a big obstacle for me, believe it or not.
For me, we were doing a coaching course, a life coaching course. The guy asked for feedback, like, is there anything going on in the office that you need to talk about? Because it was true work. And I said, well, what do you do when you walk into a room and you automatically know there's an atmosphere that people are not in good form? And he turned around and he said to me, if you walked into a room and you felt an atmosphere, you brought it with you because it wasn't there before you got there. That was the moment that everything just fell into place, and the realisation that, oh my God, I'm actually responsible for everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm feeling. That to me was actually the start of my life.
For me, it would have been the same, because I kind of realised that there was some kind of comfort. I was feeling a bit like a victim, but there was a comfort in it because it meant I didn't actually have to be responsible for myself.
But I mean, how could we not feel like victims, even if we didn't know what it meant? To have no voice, no power, no control, no say in what happened to you.
And understanding that when your abuse stops, that doesn't stop.
I don't know. I think it's because it was our norm.
One, because the way abuse happens and the grooming process. And two, because you feel you take part and are equally responsible.
I don't care how well you're groomed. And I don't care how well they play the game and build you up. And you've got all the other bits, the responsibility, the involvement. You've got all of that, because now you've got the self-hatred and disgust and everything. But on some level, you're physically hate what's happening to you. You don't want to. Every time he clicks those fingers, your heart sinks.
It's not on some level, it's on every level.
But that's what I'm saying. That doesn't go away. That didn't ever become so norm that you didn't mind those fingers ever being clicked. You always hated it. Year in, year out. So there was absolutely a sense of a victim from the get-go. Wherever you parked it, wherever you compartmentalised it with the abuse, you were a victim, and you were aware of victimhood if you didn't know the word even.
Yeah.
So you go through different stages and different phases where you could happily kill him, other stages where you need a father, you need somebody, so you compromise and you come up with a way, and for me, my way would have been choosing to believe that he couldn't possibly know what he's doing. How could anybody do that if they knew?
Yeah, but that sense you're talking about, that we were absolute victims, and there's no question about it, and we didn't have the language for that. But it's another thing we brought into our adult lives when the abuse stopped. We remained victims on some level, and again, not conscious. And it took, sometimes it was just a switch, like Paula says, that went and it dawned on her. Me, I did want to be my own person. I did want to stand up. I already knew it took more than enough responsibility in my life. And yeah, That was the resistance. I didn't want to let go of being the victim because I was afraid of the responsibility. But when I looked at my life and the amount of responsibility I had taken on and was doing naturally, it was just, it's almost like, yes, we had been programmed. No, we didn't know the words for it. We didn't have the understanding of what was going on in our heads. But the program wasn't switched off when the abuse stopped. It continued through our lives. And unless I became aware of it, because only when I became aware of it, I understood and felt for the first time ever that I have a choice. It's the freedom that comes with the realization that this can end.
And there's layers of getting out of this, just as there are of getting in. For me, one of the main layers involved in getting me out of it would have been the degree course that we took part in.
Yeah.
And it was learning about the Irish history, and also about patriarchy and the control the church had over us, even though, you know, of course I grew up with that, I knew that, but it was never verbalised.
Yeah.
To hear about patriarchy and all of the information that I was getting, just like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, clicked in place with my own experience of growing up in Ireland, and together with the abuse, I had, like Oprah says, the aha moments.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. But again, it just emphasizes the need to look back, to examine your thoughts, your feelings, and mainly your beliefs. Like, the main purpose of what we're doing here is anything we learn is to share. Because even listening to our stories, hopefully you'll connect, you'll realize, you know, this is for you or it's not for you. But we understand, and your world does open up. You realize you're innocent, and you realize actually what that means. Because somebody telling you you're innocent just doesn't do it. But if you actually have that feeling, there's a way forward. There's a whole new world opens up to you. And that's the whole purpose of this.
The decision to heal from childhood sexual abuse places you on the most important journey of your life. You're in charge of this journey. Only you know what works for you and what doesn't. It takes as long as it takes, because there's no rushing it and there's no faking it. You have to feel it. And just as the ripple of pain that you're in goes out and impacts all of those around you, so does the healing. And the more you heal, the more everyone around you benefits.
Thank you for listening. Hopefully some of the information we have shared will resonate with you. This will give you a deeper understanding of yourself, plus allow you to move into a space where you can show compassion to yourself. Please know that no matter how you feel or how you reacted to the abuse, it was normal. We are hopeful and optimistic that those in any position of power to bring about change will be moved into action, so we can finally eradicate childhood sexual abuse. So please spread the word and share the information. Thank you.
You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or contact us directly on thekavanaghsisters@gmail.com. You've been listening to the Kavanagh Sisters Count Me In podcast. We're going to leave you with a quote which you can carry with you throughout your day.
Listening to this podcast is a testament to your inner strength and wisdom. It indicates that you're seeking answers. The answers we're all seeking. Never lose hope or give up. You deserve all the good things that life has to offer. Don't struggle with it. Be gentle and kind to yourself.